Hello, everybody. All right, let's see if good. Looks like the microphone's working. I kind of just wanted to start a little bit early just to allow people to get on here in time. It's a very rainy day here in Illinois. So my hair is like frizzy. The rain's not doing it any favors. What is the weather like where you guys are? Thank you, 6 million. I actually think my second daughter looks just like me, Chloe. But I don't know. The older Abby is getting, I feel like she does look more and more like me. I didn't feel like she did when she was younger, but she kind of does the older she gets. Sunny with hurricane force winds. Where do you live, Alicia? Where? Let me see. Do you live on the East Coast? The one on the left of the picture. Yeah, that's Chloe. Yeah, she is my carbon copy. She is my mini-me. For sure. So we'll let everyone get on here. I had some links that I want to share. Not links, articles I wanted to read that I bookmarked yesterday. So I got to find those. All right, so I totally didn't even mean to plan this, but I don't know if many of you know that yesterday was International Women's Day. So how many of you knew that? I didn't know until one of my friends pointed it out. So this makes this topic very, very good because I was going to be talking a little bit at the beginning, especially about feminism and the toll that it's had on stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home wives, and things along those lines. So I know the International Women's Day is more about feminism and, you know, we don't get treated as well as men and all that jazz. But so I thought it fit in really, really well with me talking about raising daughters. So, and then I also had something mentioned in the Facebook group that we have to remake a lot of the older ones. So I'm going to try to sit down and write down which ones that we need to remake. I know a lot of them said, you know, we had started a series about different age groups, like raised babies and then toddlers and, you know, grade school, high school. I don't even think we got through all of it. So I'll go back and look a lot of the older videos and see. I still have them archived. So see which ones we can remake, maybe have different guests on for it and things. My guest is not going to work out for next week again. I might actually talk to one of my guests that I have on later this month and ask if she can come on next week. So look forward to that show. Definitely like and subscribe and all that jazz. I have to remind everyone, if you don't want to miss it live, make sure that you text gentlyled to 31996. I believe that's it. It's also in the description down below. Make sure you text that, and then you'll get texts every week right as I go live. So, okay, so let's just go ahead and start right out with what we're talking about. Obviously, I'm actually going to get the Bible out and just like turn to the passages that I want rather than look it up on my phone because I have my bookmarks out for like 3 different things sitting out right now. So everyone knows the verse in Proverbs. You know, one of the main verses that gave me this idea, and that's in Proverbs 31, verse 10. Okay, and most of you know it. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? Let me make sure that I quote it exactly right. So obviously God places high value on virtuous women. Okay, so we need to remember that. Proverbs 31, verse 10, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies. I think I did quote that exactly right, but that is it. And then, Proverbs goes, then the rest of Proverbs is talking about everything that a virtuous woman is. And, you know, I've gone through all of that before as well. Most of you know that chapter pretty well. So I like hear people talking outside. But, you know, I wanted to just read a couple articles about the toll, first of all, before we get into it, that feminism has taken on women today, on just the mindset of women and the happiness of women, because feminism has destroyed the happiness of a lot of women. And I actually found this article. I don't know the site. I just Googled this. If you Google this kind of stuff, a lot of stuff will come up. And it's actually called Feminism is Causing the Depression Epidemic. And it was really good. If I, let's see, it's on something called Thumatic. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's the name of the blog or whatever, but I agree with most of what was in this article. It did have some strong language. Obviously, I don't condone strong language, but it says 1 in 4 middle-aged American women are taking antidepressants. 1 in 4. So that statistic right there will tell you that something is wrong. Something is wrong with women in America today. One might ask, is there something wrong with our society when 1/4 of our women have to be pumped full of drugs just to make it through the day without slitting their wrists in a bathtub? That's very sobering, but that's the sad truth of it. Unlike illnesses caused by viruses and bacteria, depression is something the human body does to itself. The clinically depressed brain chooses to skimp on dopamine and serotonin production because it believes, based on the previous reproductive payoffs of thousands of generations, that doing so is adaptive. There are several, and this, obviously is talking about evolution, which I don't agree with, but it goes into all these different, hypotheses that describes why women might be depressed. But as it gets into the article, it starts talking about just the different, different complex behaviors when it comes to depression. And then, it says more specifically, depression is a means by which the body signals to itself that something is wrong with its current approach to life. And I really liked that, because it's our body's way of signaling to us something is wrong with the way you're living life. You're missing out on something. Remember, your body is your best friend. When it hurts you, it's trying to create a catalyst for behavioral changes. So it kind of just goes on to talking about feminism. I don't know if you can see that. Feminism is causing, this is a very prominent feminist that it has pictured. Feminism is causing the depression epidemic. So it's just talking about how, the modern American woman is placed in a double bind that guarantees she will be susceptible to depression in her middle age. She can either follow the feminist empowerment script and spend her childbearing years focused on her career and a series of casual relationships, or she can pursue motherhood. The subconscious core of the barren 35-year-old empowered woman does not care that she just made senior HR advisor and upgraded her condo with a new sofa set and designer cat scratch post. In the eyes of the gods of biomechanics, she is as great a failure as have ever lived. The career climbing woman who manages to squeeze out a child or two in between Pilates class and their second venti medium roast are not much better off. Before the invention of subsidized daycare and baby formula, a woman who saw her child for only an hour or two a day was doing something seriously wrong. And what of the woman who actually recognizes that motherhood is a more rewarding vocation than the meaningless paper shuffling that 90% of them would be doing in a real career? They're vulnerable as well. Humans are social creatures, and the fairer sex is especially sensitive to their approval or rejection by the tribe. We are all wired to pay close attention to the values of the high-status men and women in our world and conform our behavior to their expectations. Our modern tribal leaders are the media celebrities, academics, journalists, and other arbiters of public opinion. Unless one makes a strong and conscious decision to disassociate with mainstream American culture, which I believe most of you ladies have, he or she will subconsciously measure themselves by their approval. So, and then it just goes on and on and on. And it's talking about how basically feminism has destroyed the mindset of American women, and it's caused women to be depressed. So this article is acknowledging that feminism causes depression, which I really liked. It's an interesting article. So then I found another one, which is called Mental Illness and Public Health. It's talking about depression and World Health Day. As you go on, it's just talking about depression and all this stuff. So I don't even know why I bookmarked that one, but I was just looking up articles on depression and mental health, and a lot of it was linked to women not feeling adequate enough, women that had careers and they decided, this isn't worth it, so it definitely plays into it. And there's also been a rise of depression. Depression has risen dramatically in just the last 20 years. So that's something that you need to be aware of too. Thank you, Freya. She loves my headband. Cute. So let's get into some verses though. Obviously, God designed women for a purpose. And I'm not, all the women that are watching right now, what your purpose is. You know what that purpose is. But sometimes you have to, like the article said, you really just have to separate yourself from mainstream media because you're not going to get the approval there. And remember, our approval lies in Jesus Christ being happy with us and living our life for Jesus Christ. So 1 Timothy 5:14, though, says, that's not it. 1 Timothy, I wrote down the wrong thing. The verse where it was talking about 5:14. I will therefore that the younger women, that's what I wrote down. I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. So for some are already turned aside after Satan. And I really believe this verse is important after it talks, for some are already turned aside after Satan. If a lot of younger women are giving into the peer pressure to, rise the corporate ladder, to be successful in their career, and they are willingly choosing not to have children, not to guide the house, I believe that they are giving into the world and fleshly desires. And they are giving, that is, it is a fleshly desire. They're not doing the biblical way or the biblical method. So they are turning after Satan's way. And I believe that a lot of times, once they get on the career path, they forget what their purpose is in life. And I truly believe no woman is going to be happy. Just go find very successful women that have climbed the social ladders and are high up in the company and ask them at age 80 if they regret not having children, after their money has faded and their looks have faded and their power has faded and they're retired. Ask them if they regret not ever having children. And I guarantee you, most of them have an empty spot in their heart from not having children. God put that desire in all of us. He put that desire in us to have children, to raise children. Thank you, David Fisher. Kirsten, thank you. Anytime anything comes up with FPB, just delete them. Like I said last week, they're just trolls. Always on trying to leave nasty comments. So if we go to Psalms 113:9, this is one of my favorite ones, one of my very favorite verses. This Bible is hard to turn in because it has blank pages between each. It's a sermon note Bible. Obviously not for me. He maketh the barren woman to keep house and to be a joyful mother of children. Praise ye the Lord. I love that verse because I know several close friends and women in my own life that have been barren and they've desired a child so badly. And then when they were finally able to have children, they were so happy and so at peace and things like that. So the trolls are out in full force tonight already. So, but let's get into raising daughters of virtue. We've established that being a wife and a mother is a high calling, and God says a lot about it in the Bible. But the word virtuous, what does virtue mean? Behavior showing high moral standards. And I believe strongly in high moral standards. It's a trait that is lacking. A girl will give away her virginity just like that to some bum of a guy. She does not cherish her purity or her virginity. It is not taught. It is not, people are not teaching their daughters that is a prized possession and to save it for the right man that puts a ring on their finger and does things the right way. And then morality just means principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. Okay, so virtue means behavior showing high moral standards. Morality is principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. So how do we impart this to our own daughters? Because I know a lot of you were saved later in life. And I have a subject that I'm going to be talking about probably in a month or so. As soon as I can get Miss Sherry on here, she's really busy right now. I want to talk about leaving the baggage of the past behind and moving on with purpose. And I know a lot of you have baggage that you wish you could go back and you wish you could change the way things went, but you can't. Once it's done, it's done. So how do we impart this to our, daughters? How do we raise our daughters to have high morals and high standards? So, oh, that's nice. Kimmy said, my husband's grandmother left him a book answering questions about herself. She said her one wish was that she would have had more children. She had 2 sons and 1 died. That's very sad. And I think that's a big regret for a lot of people. They wish they would have had more. They wish they would have had, because when you're older and your life is almost over, your kids are your one thing. They're the ones that will visit you, and they're the ones that bring you joy and comfort, and your grandkids. And if you only had 1 or 2, then obviously you're not going to have as many. So how do we impart this to our daughters? Well, one of the things I've done with my daughters is teach them their worth from the time they were born. There are women all over America whose dads have slacked off, whose dads have not shown them that they love them, whose dads have said horrible things to them. And it seems to be very prevalent. I've noticed in the baby boomer generation. I am very blessed. My dad was great. He was not like this. In fact, he was the opposite. I credit a lot of my self-confidence to my dad, because from the time I was young, he was like, you're beautiful. Any man's going to be so lucky to be your husband. And I can't wait to see you as a mom. He would say things like that to me all the time. He was so encouraging. He built up my self-confidence so much, and we had a really good relationship. And I really feel like that helped pave the way for me to be very self-confident in my own life. And, who cared what anyone else said? My dad thought I was beautiful. My dad loved me no matter what. And unfortunately, he died when I was 17. But by that age, he had instilled that in me, that I knew I was prized. I knew I was important. I knew my purity was important. I knew I was the daughter of the king. I knew that I was special, and he loved me. So, especially with your husbands, they really need to have a close relationship with their daughters. That is so huge. That's one of the dads are so important, especially when it comes to their daughters. It's so important that they have a good relationship. One thing my husband does often is for every birthday, he takes the girls or the boys, he takes them all out on a birthday date. But with my girls, every now and then, he'll just take one with him somewhere, and they'll go out. Or these trips, when he gets to preach out places, he just took Allie with him. And that's really important for growing that bond. In fact, I feel like most of my girls, with the exception of my 2 youngest, just because they're around mommy most of the time, most of my girls like their dad better than me, because they're always with me, and, I homeschool them and all that. So I'm like the one that's, has to bring the hammer down all the time. But dad, he's like the fun guy. They get to go places with him, and they have a really good relationship with them. So that's super important. In Christ, we're all equal. There is neither male nor female, bond nor free. In Christ, we are all equal. Obviously, there is a chain of command within the home. But when it comes to salvation, we're equal. God sees us equal. He doesn't think that men are better than women. If you are God's child, we are all equal in Christ's eyes. And, teach them God created you with a purpose. God has big plans for your life. God's going to do great things. If you just keep your eyes on him, he's going to do great things with you. And, one of the biggest things for moms or dads, tell them they're beautiful. And you might think, this is all so silly. This isn't going to help. They're just going to get conceited in a big head. In the world that we live in, with so much just things that we're already bombarding, girls especially need to know that they are accepted by their family, loves them, their mom and dad love them, their mom and dad are proud of them, their mom and dad think that they are beautiful. Girls really, really need to be told that. Stress the importance of purity from the time they're young. One thing that I do with my girls is if we are watching a movie or something, even if it's something innocent, like, When Calls the Heart, and there's a kiss or something, I'll say things like, when are you supposed to kiss? And they'll say, when you get married. So start when they're young, really putting that thought of purity into their mind. And because with my girls, I don't even want them kissing. I don't want them being physical at all until they have the ring on their finger, until they're wed. So that is my standard. And I'm hoping that they follow that, because it's just good not to put yourself into temptation's way. Once you start down the road of petting and kissing and all that, it could turn into something more. Then you're giving away your purity after things start happening. So really start teaching them from the time they're young what they need, how they need to be acting with the opposite sex. With our kids, we have always let them talk with, members of the opposite sex. That's fine. We don't mind that in crowds, at church or something like that. But when it comes to the whole dating thing, we don't allow that until they're capable of, for the boys, supporting a family. It's silly, I think, for teenagers to get involved in these love games, because they're just, especially boys, they are teen boys with raging hormones. You don't need to have them be with a girl that they can't even support financially. It's just silly. It's gonna set them up for a fall. It's going to set them up for, sexual impropriety and giving away part of their heart, maybe doing things physically with a girl that's not their wife. So we have said, you can have a girlfriend when you're old enough to get married and financially stable enough to support a family. That's our role. So with the boys, with the girls, it's until that they can run a home, and they can, make wise decisions off the top of their head, and they're not silly and frivolous. So that's what it is with our girls. So, I can't stress enough the good relationship with their dad, especially with girls. They really need that relationship with their dad. Their dad, your husband needs to tell them just how special they are and how beautiful they are and how he's so glad God gave them to him. My husband has 5 daughters. And he is definitely softer on the girls than the boys. Every dad wants to raise their boys to be men. He's definitely softer on the girls than the boys. But he's always telling them just how great they are, and how they're, even with Kelly, he'll just, oh, Kelly, you're so cute. You're so cute. And she's 1, she really even understands that. But she knows the tone in the voice. She knows when we're happy with her. She knows when we're like, Kelly, no, she knows the stern voice. So, it's even important from the time they're little. Those first 5 years are so important. Kirsten, you are totally on top of it. I'm not even paying attention to the chat. And she's like, delete. So good job. Yes, exactly, Jen. When young teens enter a relationship, it sets them up for failure and heartbreak. And the thing is, with young teens, the majority of relationships don't work out. And when they don't work out, they're heartbroken. And it takes them a long time. And sometimes they don't ever recover. Sometimes in the back of their head, they're always thinking of their first love, or, the relationship that never happened. So it's just not smart to allow your young teenagers to date or play the dating game. Like I said, my kids aren't even allowed. They're not supposed to be texting. When a boy decides that he wants one of my daughters, he's going to have to go through a lot of hoops, and he is going to have to go to my husband first off. And he's going to have to work for my daughter, because we live in a day and age where people are just giving away their daughters for nothing. They don't care. They're throwing them to the wolves. You're 18 now, get out of my house. And they're throwing them to the wolves to be devoured. And that's not going to be my daughters. My daughters are special. My daughters are rare. And my daughters are unique. And whoever's going to get them is going to prove that he's worthy of them. Obviously, I don't think anyone's worthy of them. But whoever gets them, he's going to have to prove that he's worthy of them. And he is going to have to prove that he's godly, godly young man that has a good heart. So there's going to be a lot of hoops for them to jump through. And that's fine. Let your girls know that. Say, you're not going to any bum that comes along wanting to just shack up with you, not wanting to put a ring on your finger. My girls know that. They know they're not going to get the first guy that comes along. That's not necessarily going to be the one that they get. It's going to be work to get them. So, go ahead and block not your average too. Thank you. Yeah, weirdo. You know what? I am not worried about coronavirus. So whatever. I don't understand Christians panicking about it, because in the Bible it talks about at the end, the end times coming, all these things are going to be popping up. Honestly, there's not much we can do about it. If God wants me to get the coronavirus, I'm going to get it. If he doesn't want me to, I'm not going to get it. I'm not worried about it. Whatever. Weirdo. Anyways, not every punk's good enough for him. I already said that. I kind of went off on that little tangent. So, let me read. Let me read. Yeah, I have my own little posse, Kirsten, of people that just love watching my videos just to criticize. So if you don't like my videos, just don't watch them. I don't understand watching someone that you're just going to pick apart. So whatever. Let me see. Yeah, I do too. That is off topic, Shara. But yes, I saw a chiropractor all the way through with Kelly, and it was my best delivery to date. I really think seeing my chiropractor made the difference. It really, really made the difference. So what's another way that we can raise virtuous daughters? Teach them to work hard. Okay. Give them responsibility. And when you give them responsibility, it teaches them to work hard, accomplish something, and take pride in that accomplishment. Don't let them sit around the house all day just watching YouTube. Even if they're reading books, that's a little better than YouTube, obviously. But especially for girls, they need something. What I'm going to do this week, I already told the girls I was going to do this. I'm going to sit down and plan out just a list of chores for each of the girls to either rotate. Abby kind of takes over the kitchen. She's kind of my kitchen girl. That sounds funny. My kitchen girl. She wanted the kitchen. She told me, I want to clean the kitchen. And that's her responsibility. She likes doing it. She likes having her kitchen all clean. I can never find anything when I cook, though. That's the annoying part. I'm like, Abby, where's this? Abby, where's that? Because it's always missing. She moves it all over the place. But, and I told the girls, I said, you're all going to have your own little area, and then you're going to clean it every day. And then I have an app, the Motivated Moms app on my phone. I said, we're going to go through that, and we're going to pick out a few things on the list. We're going to go through that, and you each get a few things off the list as well. But then they can take pride in cleaning their room. Allie does it all the time. Mom. One time I was looking through my pictures, and there was all these pictures of my bathroom on there. And I was like, what in the world? Why do I have all these pictures of the toilet and the bathtub and the sink? And I was like, oh, I remembered Allie wanted me to see how good she did it. I don't know if I was somewhere. So she took pictures and sent them. Or no, it was on my phone though. I don't know why they were on there, but she had taken pictures of the bathroom to show me. And she brought it to me and said, look at these pictures. And she wanted me to see them. So she was super proud of it. Didn't I do a good job, Mom? Tell them when they do a good job. You're going to have to, when they're younger, show them how to do a good job. But after they get older, like my girls are getting older now, they're now capable of doing it almost as good as I am. So obviously us moms, nothing's ever perfect enough, but it's good enough to pass. So I know I do too, Jen. She said, I love finding their picture documenting later. I find so many pictures of like selfies, kids doing crazy selfies on my phone. It's so funny. Teach them how to run a home. Obviously, this is given. And one thing I think in this circle that's really, really good with our group of women is that we are having babies, until we're older. And so as our kids are growing up, a lot of American families, they'll maybe have two, right at the beginning of their marriage. Then those kids grow up and they're 16, 17, no younger brothers and sisters. With the way that we're doing it, it's actually very good for teaching skills to our daughters, such as caring for babies. That is a lost skill. You would be surprised at how many millennials have no idea how to take care of a baby because their parents stopped having babies. So they grow up, they don't have any younger siblings, they're never around it. And then when they have one, they're like, whoa, they have to be taught everything. So I have full confidence in my older kids that they could take care of Kelly the whole day and overnight even. They could go a couple of days with taking care of her. I have full confidence in that because they've watched me do it. They pick up things from you. Also, when it comes to running the home, Abby can cook just as well or better than I can. My boys cannot. They can cook a frozen pizza, but we're talking about girls tonight. So I'm sure if they had to figure it out, they could. Jason cooks macaroni and cheese all the time, but that's about it. So, but my girls, though, I mean, Abby and Chloe's getting there. They can follow a recipe and cook food. So, they know how to clean. They know how to do a menu. They've seen me do menus. When I had Lana, let's see, Alana's 5 and Abby. So Abby would have been 10 at this time. When I had Lana, she was only 10 years old, but my husband went to Aldi. And since Abby had been with me so many times, she knew exactly what we got. Like, we get pretty much the same thing at Aldi. Those of you that shop at Aldi know what I'm talking about. There's not much of a variety. You kind of basically get the same thing. So he said it was so funny because he was just pushing the cart through Aldi and Abby was just like going through and throwing stuff in. And at that point, I'm like, well, yeah, she's good at it. She knows. But now I'm thinking back, I'm like, she was 10. She was 10 and she was doing the grocery shopping at Aldi. And, with her being the oldest girl, obviously there's 2 boys ahead of her, but her being the oldest girl, she is a little bit more responsible, kind of like your firstborn. But that was pretty impressive now when I think back about it. So teach them how to run a home, give them responsibility, give them chores, do things like that. Kirsten, that's horrible. She said, my mom tried to teach me to never do housework. Yeah, kind of the opposite of what we're going for. So, but yeah, teach them to be independent. I always, I've had a few friends that have they're just shocked at how much I push my kids to be independent. Well, one, I think when you have a lot of kids, that's just what you do. You need them to help out. So you kind of push them to do things faster than maybe a parent that has 1 kid or 2 kids or whatever. But then 2, I've always wanted them, my mindset has always been, I wanted them to, if something ever happened to me or their dad, be, number 1, strong in what they believe when it came to God and, knowing salvation and making sure that they were saved from a young age and, really having the laws of God in their heart and really instilling that belief in them. But 2, just having them be where they could fend for themselves if something ever happened. I always have it in the back of my mind. What if we're on a trip, my husband and I go to a store an hour away and something happens and we end up in the hospital and the kids have to be by themselves for 2 days. I'm always thinking stuff like this. So I've always tried to prepare them for an emergency if me or their dad weren't around, just to know what to do in that case. And that's another thing, teach your daughters to be prepared, teach them what to do in the case of an emergency. I remember when Lana was, how old was Lana? 2. And so Abby would have only been 12 at the time. I'm telling all these stories about Abby, but she's my oldest. So this is just what I'm thinking. She almost got her finger cut off in the door. Her sister, Allie, slammed the door on, her finger was in the hinge and it was hanging there. It was almost falling off. So I had to call 911 and Lana was screaming and he couldn't hear. So he asked if there was anyone else available to talk to. And so I handed the phone to Abby and I had to hold her finger on like this while the ambulance came, and I couldn't drive because it was only me with the girls. And Abby was able to calmly talk to him and tell me what to do, hold her hand above her heart and hold the rag on and put pressure on it and all that. And so when we got to the hospital, they were all with me because I had to drive the van and follow the ambulance. And the 911 guy actually came out just because he wanted to meet Abby, because he was so impressed by how calm she was. She wasn't panicking. She was calm, but that's just Abby's personality. She's just very calm and she's just takes things in stride. She probably gets that from her dad, not so much me. But he wanted to come out and he's like, I just wanted to meet this young lady that was so calm on the phone. He's like, that barely ever happens. Most people are panicking or screaming or whatever. So that was a proud moment for me. I was so proud that, she was able to talk us through that and, remain calm and everything. So yeah, let them know what to do in an emergency situation. Also, being smart's not bad. And getting a good education is important. Don't slack off on their homeschooling because they're girls. Don't say, okay, here's your math for the day. Go bake a cake and figure out your fractions while you're making it. That's so foolish. Your daughters are someday, hopefully, going to be homeschooling your grandchildren. So how do you want your grandchildren to be homeschooled? Do you want them to take a lazy attitude when it comes to their school? Do you want them to slack off? I don't with mine. I want my children to be competent. I want them to be able to read well and write well. And I want them someday to be able to teach my grandchildren. So I take schooling seriously. When they're very young, I do a good foundation. I set a good foundation by doing the Abeka Video School, and then we move into PACES after they're a very good independent reader. And, I'm always telling them to learn things. If maybe they have a question about the largest volcano, well, look it up. Let's learn about it. Encourage them to learn about things, encourage them to dig and research and, do things like that. Like I said, they're going to be teaching your grandkids someday. I make sure they do a good math program. I make sure they know how to read very well. They're very good independent readers. You'd be surprised at all the kids in public school that their reading is really overlooked, and their reading and math, those seems to be the big ones. So really, a good education is important. Like I said, someday they're going to be teaching your grandchildren or homeschooling your grandchildren. They need to be able to do a budget. They need to be able to follow recipes. They need to be able to write coherently and things of that nature. So really drill that in their heads. It really, really bothers me when people are like, well, they're a girl. They're just going to be a stay-at-home wife and mom. And, school's not important. It's very important. School is very important to me. I am not for unschooling. I am not for slacking off on homeschooling. We pretty much do it every day of the week. My kids don't even argue with it because they just know it's going to get done, because I've always stressed that and always made it a priority. So, let's see. I'm missing some of the chat. Hello, I really look up to you just because I grew up in a Catholic religion. At what age do you think that girls should get their ears pierced without the Hep B shot? Is this against the Bible? I have earrings, but my husband has declared my girls are not getting their ears pierced until they get married. He said, I'm going to give them to their husbands unscathed, is what he said. When we got married, I already had pierced ears. So he said, I'm going to leave it up to their husbands. I had a couple that have wanted pierced ears, and he's like, nope, your husband, you and your husband talk about it after you get married. So I don't think it's against the Bible, because the Bible talks about Christ putting earrings in his bride's ears. So that's just what I've seen. I've taken it, the Hep B shot. I don't know what that has to do with earrings. I think getting your ears pierced is pretty sanitary. They clean your earlobes with alcohol, and I don't think the Hep B shot is necessary for that. Definitely not. So I don't know what that has to do with the Bible, but let me see. Yes, Pastor Mejia does have sermons on vaccines, and I don't know if he's I think he's redoing a documentary or something, but yeah, Carla, it's good to have you. I'm glad that you watched the show. Actually, my dad, a little known fact, my dad grew up a Catholic. So he grew up a Catholic, and at about age, I think he was 26, my mom actually was, she had just had me, I believe. I was less than a year old, and she had her sister and another woman from church come by to talk to her about salvation. And my mom never really grew up any religion, but my dad grew up Catholic. And when they explained the gospel to her, at first she got mad because she was kind of like very bitter, rebellious, didn't really like hearing about God. So they explained the gospel to her, and she was mad. But the more and more she thought about it, it was like the Holy Spirit was working on her heart long after they left. And she actually ended up praying and accepting the gift of salvation. And then not long after that, she had my dad go with her to church. They went to that church. It's just actually a church here in town. She used to live in this town in Rock Falls. And so they went to a church. It was Harvest Time. It's like a Baptist church here in town. It's since gone liberal, but back then it had just started. And he went and ended up getting saved as well. So they were both saved and baptized in that church. And I was actually saved when I was 4 or 5 years old through that church. So, but he was Catholic. He has a lot of Catholic family. And he's witnessed to a lot of them. He's had a couple get saved. But yeah, if you're not sure, I don't know if you're still Catholic, but if you're not sure that you're saved or not, I would definitely recommend watching my husband's video about the Bible way to heaven. Just so you know, you're not relying on your works to get you to heaven. It's something that you do. It's only by, accepting Jesus's work on the cross and all that. So Monica said, as a mom of 6 daughters, I want them to be educated in accounting, nutrition, theology, government, health, music, remedies, cooking, education, management. They need to be prepared for the husband God has for them. Exactly. And it's not, wow, Kirsten, it's not bad for your girls to be educated. It's very smart for them to be educated. They need to have sharp minds and they need to be prepared for whatever. And, the beauty of homeschooling is you can impart any knowledge and wisdom into your child that you want them to have. You can focus on a lot of math. You can focus a lot on running a home. You can focus a lot on doing a budget. You can focus on a lot on reading. Whatever you want to focus on, you can do it. So that is a smart plan, because as it is now, I did not go to college, but I have always hungered and thirsted after knowledge and knowing things and studying and researching. And I believe music lessons really played a part into that. And then also reading. I've read from the time I started reading. I have not stopped. I read all the time. That is what gave me a strong foundation with grammar. And yes, I am a grammar Nazi. It drives me nuts. People don't know grammar. And it drives me nuts when I see my kids do the same thing. So yes. And come to think of it, my mom kind of was too, because she was always correcting my grammar when we would talk. Always. And I still think she does. And I'm almost 40. So yes, I had a strong foundation because of all the reading I did. That really, really helps, with your brain, and it really helps grammatically, and how I love to write. I've always loved to write from the time I was young. I took 3 different types of music lessons as I was growing up. Through a teenager, I was doing voice and flute and piano. And if you look at studies when it comes to music lessons, that helps sharpen your mind. And even people that go on to develop Alzheimer's, it's proven that things like music lessons will help, not prolong, but it will help, keep that from coming on, the onset of it. And it will help ward that off longer. Things like, really making your mind work. And music lessons really does it. Playing an instrument really does it, because you're thinking of so many things at the same time. So many things go into playing the piano and playing it beautifully, and the same with the flute and singing and all this stuff. So yes, encourage your kids, daughters, have them right now. My daughters get to practice so much more than I do every day. So encourage music lessons, encourage them to practice, because that will help sharpen their brain. And, okay. I am a grammar Nazi with my family and my kids. I'm not judging all of you if you have bad grammar. Okay. Just remember that. 6 Million said, I am so sorry for my grammar. I hope I don't kill you of a heart attack due to my amazing English skills. And here's the thing. I don't speak 2 languages. So I'm amazed that you're even typing as well as you are, because I couldn't speak whatever language you speak. So you already have one up on me. So no, you don't kill me with your bad grammar. Definitely not. Teach them to be godly and encourage Bible reading, but lead by example. They need to see that you're hungering and thirsting after the things of the Lord. They need to see that you're excited about going to church. Kids pick up on everything you do. They pick up on your attitude. They pick up on things you say. They pick up on your mannerisms. So if you're always like, it's Sunday tomorrow, it's time to go to church, they're going to pick up on that. Okay. And then when they're old enough to where you can't force them to go anymore, they're going to be like, I'm out of here. I'm like, Mom, you hate it too. You complain about it every week. So, really watch that. Really show them that serving the Lord is exciting, and going to church is exciting, and, living our life for Him is so exciting. Really show them that. Teach them to be skillful and good at whatever skill they're trying to master. Okay. Whether it's playing the piano, whether it's, playing the flute, whether it's singing, whether it's writing. My daughter, Chloe, she is very, very crafty. So she loves to crochet. And she does a good job at it. And whatever, Chloe is very driven. One time she spent, if any of you at church know what I'm talking about, you always see her. She gets into these little things. I swear she has like ADD and just can't sit still. She has to be doing something with her hands all the time. And so lately she's been into Rubik's Cubes. And she literally spent 4 hours one day watching a YouTube video on how to figure out Rubik's Cubes. It has an algorithm, Mom. I have to figure out this algorithm. I was like, Chloe, come on. It's been forever since you've been watching this. Mom, I have to figure out this algorithm. I almost have it figured out. She said algorithm like 50 times that day. But at the end of that day, she can now do any Rubik's Cube. She can figure it out. She times herself. So she goes and she sets a timer and she'll do the Rubik's Cube. And she's like, yes, I got it in 35 seconds or whatever. So yeah, she'll do the Rubik's Cube now. And so she'll crochet. She was into slime for a while, as all of you know. She is been doing the Rubik's Cube lately, but whatever she does, ukulele, she gets all in and she tries to become skillful at it. So really encourage them to work with their hands. Proverbs 31 talks about the virtuous woman and the Proverbs 31 woman and how she's planting and she's making things and sewing and selling to the merchants. It is not wrong for women, stay-at-home moms, to have a skill that they're good at and that they're making money off of. That I encourage that. I've told Abby before, she's getting really good at piano. So I'm like, maybe someday you can do an online piano academy too. Maybe you can teach piano lessons someday, and I just really encourage you to keep going. Learn all that you can now, because someday you can teach someone else about it. Chloe, I'm like, maybe someday you can crochet, the shawls that you crochet and you can sell them on Etsy or something, make a little extra on the side. So encourage them to have a trade or skill that they're good at. And plus it keeps them busy. You want to keep them busy. Teach them it's not okay to be idle all the time. Obviously we're going to have lazy days and those are okay every once in a while. We all need to recharge. And, I'll have a lazy day, like maybe once a month, where I just stay home and I either read all day or I'll watch some BBC show or something that I like, all day or something. I very rarely watch TV. I'm just not a TV watcher most of the time. It takes a lot. I'd rather read a book. So I tend to do that. And plus I'm kind of busy between all of my piano lessons, the homeschooling, and then just even Gently Led Sisters takes up a lot of time, blogging and all that. So I spend a lot of time on that. Whatever free time I have is kind of spent on that. But, have your kids see that you're always busy doing something. You're always busy cleaning. You're always, you're not idle. You're not sitting around on your phone constantly on Facebook and involved in the latest drama or whatever, and it's funny because if I leave a comment on any YouTube video, I always have, and I almost barely, that doesn't even make sense. I rarely leave a comment on YouTube videos anymore, because anytime I do, it's like 50 comments underneath and they're all like, go cook and go make me a sandwich. And why are you even on YouTube? And you spend all your days on YouTube. Kimmy, you know what I'm talking about. And you know how long it takes to comment? It takes literally 30 seconds to leave a comment. You watch the video. A lot of times I'll watch videos while I'm doing things. I'll watch videos while I'm cooking. I'll watch videos while I'm cleaning the bathroom. I'll watch videos while I'm getting ready. I'm always doing something. I'm never sitting there with my phone just watching videos. I'm always busy. So if I watch a video and I like it, I'll go leave a comment. And then it's just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're leaving a comment, and it's just, they come after me and they come after my husband. It's like, this isn't even worth it leaving a comment anymore. It's so stupid. But yeah, it literally takes 30 seconds to leave a comment on a video. And then too, I want to throw the same thing at them. Why aren't you at work? If it's so awful for me to leave a comment, why aren't you working right now? Why aren't you working your factory job or whatever it is you do? So incredibly annoying. That's just a pet peeve of mine. Anyways. Yes, exactly, Monica. Our unmarried daughters have the time now to learn and study. Once a husband comes along and then babies, one's time becomes very limited. It does indeed. Like I said, sometimes I have to choose between sleep or reading or writing. If you notice, most of and I publish them at horrible times. I publish all my blog posts at horrible times. I need to just write it and then like schedule it to be published the next day. Karen would freak out at me. She'd be like, you need to find the optimal time to publish your stuff. And I don't. I publish it at like 1 a.m. because I write late at night. That's when I have the time. And so oftentimes, a lot of times I'll actually be in bed. And you know how it is when you're in bed and your thought, like all these thoughts are running through your head. And I'll just feel compelled. I want to write something. So I'll go, maybe I can't sleep. I'll just go and write something and then I'll publish it. So if you guys are wondering why in the world are all her blog posts published at like 1 a.m, that's why. I'm choosing to write rather than sleep at that point in my life. So, and as when we have a lot of young kids, you guys have been there. You know what it's like to have to choose between sleep and a hobby that you like. So, but yeah, I'm definitely not spending my hours watching YouTube videos for sure, Karen. She said we're going to have to chat about this. I know she's gonna be like, you need to be checking. There's like something you could check to see like when everyone will see it or whatever. And I'm just like, publish at 1 a.m. in the morning. So, and I have noticed the ones that I publish at like 10 a.m., 11 a.m., those get a lot more views than the ones I publish at 1. But I'm not just in this for the views. So whatever. Yes, exactly, Kirsten. Women must be working at all times. Men do Facebooks and video games in their parents' basement. Yes, exactly. Okay, Helena asked, I have a question for you. I wasn't a good student in high school, and English is not my first language, but I want to homeschool because the leftist indoctrination is scaring me. But how do I prepare? Well, you just prepare by studying all that you can about homeschooling, making sure that what your homeschool laws are. I don't know where you live, being aware of your homeschool laws, and then finding a good curriculum that you really like. Like I said, when my kids are young, I start them off in a Becca video school. It provides a very good foundation, I believe, for phonics and reading and even their writing. I really, really like a Becca, and then I move them into ACE. So just becoming comfortable with the curriculum and then just doing it. You're going to learn right along with your kids. You will be amazed at how much you learn just through homeschooling. So exactly. Kirsten just said it. Pick a good curriculum and you can learn with your child, and you can. So, but yeah, teach them to be ladylike. I'm almost out of time, so I got to rush to these last ones, but this is a big one. I really feel, obviously, a lot of and Karen I'm going to do a little shout out because I'm so excited about this. She is putting together something right now that I'm going to be very excited about sharing. And it's a website that I wish I would have thought of, and it's right up my alley because most of you know that I am all about feminism and being ladylike and really all the attributes that go along with that, feeling good about yourself and taking care of yourself and, making yourself attractive for your husband. I am all about that. And so she's putting together a website that's going to be really, really good. So watch for that. It's going to be a really, really good one. I'm very excited about it. But, teach them to sit like a lady. Teach them to dress well for their body shape. My body shape is where, I'm just I have an athletic build. So I have broad shoulders and narrow hips. And so I have to dress accordingly. That's why I like the shirts that are flowy. And, teach them that there are different ways to dress for your body type. There's some women that can get away with a pencil skirt. There's some women that can't, because maybe they have more of the, the voluptuous hips. So I can get away with a pencil skirt because those are not my problem areas. So just teach them that it's okay to look pretty. Teach them good hygiene. Hygiene is inverted triangles. That's what we are. Yes. Hygiene is lacking today. Just go on a plane and you will soon find that out. Either someone is drenching themselves in perfume to mask the smells, or someone has just not bathed in a week and they are overpoweringly, they smell like BO. So hygiene is definitely lacking. I encourage daily showers with my girls. And they have to be taught this from a young age. My girls beg. They would take 2 showers a day, 2 baths a day if I let them. They love them. There's no problem getting them to bathe, or, teach them about deodorant. If you are against any type of aluminum deodorant, use Lumi. I love Lumi. It's a natural deodorant. It is great. It's one of the only ones I've found that work for me as far as just controlling it. It's just look up Lumi. It's really good. So, and then, teach them from the time they get to be about 12 or 13, they're going to start going through pre-puberty stuff. So you need to be open and honest with them about what's going to happen and prepare them for it. Maybe do a one-on-one thing with them. Teach them how to shave. As women, I think shaving is important. I can't believe I have to even say that, but I believe that, keeping up with yourself, keeping up with your baths, keeping up with your shaving, I think that's all important for your husband, for the pleasure of your husband. So Lumi, you spell it just like Kimmy did, Lume. I actually found it through a Facebook ad, and I was kind of skeptical because I've tried the Schmitz, and that just smelled gross on me. I don't know. My body reacted bad to it. I didn't like it. But I got the lavender sage of Lumi, I believe, and it's worked really well. So I really, really like it. But yes, hygiene is super important. It's very lacking. Daughters are not being taught this by their moms, and they're growing up to be sloppy in appearance. And I believe as Christians, we need to be a good representative for Christ because we are Christians. So I feel very strongly about, keeping your appearances up, not so much just to be, proud and arrogant, but I believe the Bible talks a lot about beautiful women, just like I've mentioned before, and I'll mention again with Esther. They took over a year to prepare her for the king. So it's, the Bible does talk about beauty, and I do not think beauty is sinful. I do not think that dressing frumpy equals spirituality. And I think a lot of women have this in their heads. Teach them when they're starting to go through the pre-puberty things, teach them that they're going to need to start wearing the correct undergarments now, because when you don't wear the correct undergarments, it's very immodest. It can be very, very immodest, and it's great that we live in the 21st century, and there are modest things be more modest for us. Maybe back in the day, they didn't have that, but we do now. So teach your girls about that, teach them to be ladylike, teach them to be feminine, teach them to be modest, teach them to wear the proper, undergarments and things like that. So that's super important. That's not being taught to a lot of girls. And then obviously, have babies. Teach them that babies are wonderful things. Teach them that that's miraculous and it's great and it's wonderful. And this is how I felt when you were born, and I loved it. Show them how to take care of a baby, show them how to bathe a baby, and show them how to change a baby's diaper, and, have them be competent when it comes to caring for a baby. It'll help so much, because like I said, it's amazing how little some people know about babies and all that. So, encourage exercise and taking care of the temple. A lot of moms are not passing this down. My mom actually did stress us a lot in my life, and I probably let her down because I hate exercising. Dawn, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better, Dawn, but I am not fond of exercising. But my girls, when we did that 1 month challenge with Dawn, it was good because we did it together, and Chloe's still been doing it. She's all about it. She loves the workouts, and, show them that, teach them it's not okay to be obsessed with your looks. And obviously there's a line with all of this. It's not okay to be obsessed with your looks because, beauty is vain, but it is okay to take care of of the body that God's given you, because this is our only body. And when you are obese and you never exercise and you can't make it through a day without taking a nap because you're just overweight and you're unhealthy, all these things, that is impacting your health later on as you get older and older and older. So teach them that taking care of their health is not a bad thing. Body exercise profiteth little. It says it profiteth little, but it does profit some. So, and if you're doing a 15, 20-minute workout a day, that is such a tiny, small, minuscule part of your day. You're not obsessing about it. You're not going overboard. So teach them to have good health, because once again, that's going to impact the health of your grandkids someday. All this is going to impact your grandkids someday. You have to think ahead. You have to think of the big picture. You have to think, how do I want them raising my grandkids? How do I want them? What do I want them teaching my grandkids? How do I want my grandkids' health to be? So you really, really have to think of the big picture. So, focus on internal beauty rather than external beauty, obviously, but it's not bad to teach them, to do good height, to have good hygiene, and to take care of their appearance. And, that's not a bad thing either. Guard her heart. You got to guard her heart, Mom. Us women, we do like the praise of men, as far as, men thinking that we're beautiful, men thinking we're attractive. That's why we like it when our husbands tell us that we're pretty. And that's why we like it when our husbands tell us that they love us and our personality. And so your daughter is going to need you to guard her heart. And once again, that comes where dad is very, very important in the picture. He needs to protect her. He needs to make it hard for someone to get to her. He needs to make it a challenge to want to date his daughter, because that's going to weed out a lot of people right there. Most guys, they're like, dads are like, sure. Well, first of all, they don't even ask the dad. And then when they do, the girl's like, well, it's my decision. I don't care what you say. Don't raise your girls that way. Raise them to really respect your input and your wisdom and your decision making when it comes to different things like that. So, and then the last thing I have is raise your daughters to let them go. Make it hard, make it difficult. But if a good guy does come along and he's a good guy and he truly loves your daughter and he has a way to provide a good home for her and a good life for her, don't be selfish and don't keep her at home for the rest of her life. You need to raise her to let her go. I've seen a lot of parents do this, and their daughters are now in their 30s, living at home still and miserable, because they're missing out. They're missing out on getting married, and they're missing out on having babies, and they're missing out on all that. So that's what your daughter was created and designed to be. She was designed to be married to a good man, to have babies, and to run the home. So don't be selfish and hang on to her for the rest of her life so that she misses all that. Obviously don't give her to the first guy that comes along. Make the guy work for her. But there's probably a good guy out there. If there's a good guy out there, then you need to be willing to let your daughter go to that guy so she can experience the happiness and joy that you've had. I know I love being a wife. I love having my own home. I love having children. It's what I've wanted since the time I was little. And I see that even in Kelly. Today, she was so cute. Her little baby seat was in the bathroom. And I was in there getting ready or something. And the next thing you know, she comes toddling and she saw the baby seat was in there. And then she left and she came toddling in with her tiny little baby, and she was putting it in the baby seat and she wanted to carry it around the house. It was so cute. And even she'll pick up her baby and she'll go, aw, and be holding it, aw. And why do you think she does that? Number one, because I've done that with her since the time she was born. She's got all these siblings that do it. But number two, that's in her. That is not something that's instinct. There's Ladybug, just fell. That is instinct. That is in her. And God put that in her. And God put that in all of us women to have children and guide the home and raise another godly generation for him. So I love it. It's one of the reasons I do this channel, because I know all of you love it. Most of you, with the exception of the trolls. All of you love it. And your desire is to be the best stay-at-home wife and mom you can be. So hopefully those tips helped. It's obviously something I've been implementing since day one. I'm liking the results so far. She's not totally raised and she's not married yet, so we'll see. But she is 15 years old. She is my oldest is very sweet, and she is very capable and very confident and very good at doing things around the home. She's smart. So far, so good. So we'll see. And the same with all the younger ones coming up, Chloe and Allie and all them. I feel like I'm going to have to really remind myself of this as my younger ones grow, because, as how it is, The older ones are so independent and so responsible. And then as your other ones come up, you don't harp on them as much. So I'm going to have to keep reminding myself of this with all my daughters. Definitely. So, Kelly's been walking since the time she was 11 months. And she is almost 14 months. Yes. And I think it's been a week since she nursed. So I think she's almost weaned. Definitely. Let's see. Do you ever worry about possible bad influence on your daughters, maybe even from church? Or do you think if you have those heartstrings tight, there's nothing to worry about? No, I definitely worry about bad influences. I do. Anytime we're anywhere, I keep an eye, and I can tell if stuff is starting to rub off on them. And then I'm like, whoa, okay, we need to look and reevaluate what's going on here. And I think that's just part of having their heart as a parent. But no, I do. I still worry about bad influences. I've seen with my older son, he is now over 18. And I've been proud of some things I've seen in his life lately. And I feel like it's coming to the point where he is learning to take a stand and learning to be on his own 2 feet regarding some things. So I'm glad. I like it when I see them take the initiative, even with friends, when it comes to telling hard things to friends and not just going along with the flow. I like it when I see them taking initiative, because then I know it's really sunk in. And they're not doing it because mom and dad are forcing them, but they're doing it because they believe that, if that makes sense. So yes, you definitely need to, because I feel like the peer pressure is very strong for teenagers. And it's not until they get closer to adulthood that they really start standing on their own 2 feet for a lot of them. So yeah, definitely I do worry about that. I mean, what do moms not worry about, right? That's just part of being a mom, watching out for that kind of thing. So what do I think about raw milk versus pasteurized milk? Well, I've been buying raw milk now for 7 years at a local source, and I think it's great. My kids have super strong teeth. The last time we went to the dentist told me that they had great teeth and they were like the best teeth she had seen all week. And every single one of them had great teeth. They haven't had a cavity in years, I think, since starting the raw milk. So raw milk is I love it. It's living, it's alive. Pasteurized milk is dead. So what age should they be getting their period with raw milk? I have no idea. I think it's different for all kids. So yeah, I can't really answer that. I don't know if that really plays into it. It might, but I have not really researched that. So, okay. Jessica, that's funny. Yeah, Kelly is she's my first one to do everything. My oldest was my one before her that did everything, but she, I think, is just trying to keep up with her siblings. So she is crazy. She was my first one to roll over, my first one to sit up, my first one to walk as early as she did. So yeah, she's just trying to keep up with her siblings. That's crazy. Okay. My daughter is the opposite extreme. She hates her face and refuses to look into a mirror. I don't know how to help her overcome that, because she will need to look in a mirror someday on her own. It sounds like it's deep-rooted insecurities. I'm sorry about that. You're just I would recommend maybe finding a study to do with her through the Bible about how she is beautiful and she is special to God and she is the daughter of a king. I'm sure there's some out there. In fact, I'll look for some. Maybe for the next book for our book club, we could do like a mother-daughter thing. We could go through the Bible with our daughters and kind of, impart just how special they are and how they are loved and they are beautiful. So that is something that I will make a note of and maybe look for something along those lines, some kind of Bible study thing or something. And like I said, disclaimer, there's always going to be something wrong with the books we read. They're not going to use the right version. There's going to be something that they say about salvation that might not be totally accurate, but you can glean good things from basically any source. So just take the good, leave the bad. Same with the book that we're reading. There's a lot of really good parts. There's a lot of parts that maybe I wouldn't have talked about, but take the good, leave the bad. So that goes for anything. But yeah, that would be really good if we kind of did like a mother-daughter study. That's a good idea. So I'm going to look into that. I will write it in my handy dandy planner. So anyways, that is it for this week. Jen, if you are still watching, I might ask you to be on. Well, I think you said next week wouldn't work. I think that's the one week that might not work. We will have a guest on before the end of the month, I promise. You might just have to deal with me next week again. So we'll see what happens with that. But thanks for joining, ladies. It might just be next week, me next week, and then Jen the following week. We'll see what happens. So lots of busy stuff going on. I wasn't able to get Miss Sherry this month. Her life is too crazy busy. So, you can do next week. Okay, we will have a special guest next week. It will be Jen Bay, I believe is how you say her last name. And she is going to be talking about a little bit about her testimony. I think it's very interesting. And a little bit about just how it is having a lot of kids, a lot of littles while running a business, while homeschooling. And we're just kind of going to go into that. So it'll be fun. Oh, I hope you have a daughter, Jessica. Hopefully. Daughters are great. I love having daughters. It's a little drama filled sometimes in my life, but it's okay. I like having daughters. So okay, so we are going to see you guys next week and look for a guest. I'll get something made up for that this week. And like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. If you have any tips about raising virtuous daughters, put it down below in the comments. All right, so I would love to hear your input. And thanks for joining, and I will see you next week.